Okay. I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order, please. Today is May 11th, 2023. Welcome to the Hyde Park Central School District Board of Education meeting. At this time, can I get a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of discussing a personnel matter leading to the appointment or employment of a particular person, an employee, promotional or disciplinary matter, and collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law?
So moved. Second, Tibbetts.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We're now in executive session. Thank you. All right, I'd like to return to open session. At this time, can we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's nothing playing.
Well, it's Sari. Okay, do we have no modifications, right? Okay. 4.3, can I get a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
So moved, Jesse. Second, Margaret.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Eva did that, not me.
So they can use us.
We're live.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Upcoming events. Okay. So they changed this web page, so hold on. Nothing's working for it. Okay. All right, so we have Monday, May 15th is the FDR Spring Concert number 2 at FDR at 7 p.m. Tuesday, May 16th is the annual election and the 23-24 budget vote and board member election, annual meeting, sorry. And it's the Haviland Middle School Spring Concert number 3. And the voting will happen in the Haviland Middle School gym, and the concert will be in the auditorium. Polls open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., and the concert starts at 7 p.m. Thursday, May 18th, Netherwood Spring Concert at FDR at 7 p.m. Wednesday, May 24th, FDR Awards Night at FDR, 7 p.m. Thursday, May 25th, is the next regular Board of Education meeting at District Office at 7 p.m. Any other events anyone would like to bring up? Okay. And moving on to Pride.
So to start with some sports news, this past weekend, the FDR track and field team hosted their annual race at the Oval Office. There were 22 teams in attendance, and it was a huge success, and both our girls and boys won first place in the varsity division. Next week, we'll have senior prom tickets going on sale. That'll be on June 2nd at the Chateau. They'll be on sale Tuesday through Friday. A lot of students are finishing up. We had AP tests going on these past 2 weeks, so a lot of students have been working really hard, studying and finishing up those exams. I think the last one is tomorrow. And then all of the classes are finishing up their end of year planning right now. I know seniors are working on senior week and getting all that set out, and juniors are selling Krispy Kreme donuts right now as a fundraiser. And then at Violet Avenue, their school therapy dog Milano is being highlighted in a documentary that's being produced by some FDR students. They had their floorball championship take place today based on Mr. Vergothi's current unit in their physical education class. The two winners of the floorball championship then got to take on Mr. Vergothi and Mr. Daniels. The second grade classes celebrated Cinco de Mayo, and they learned why it's celebrated and how it's celebrated. They also enjoyed music from Mexico and read stories rich in Mexican heritage. Hannah Ring from the Dutchess County Recycling Center came to talk to their third graders recently about the importance of recycling, and Mr. Sheldon came to answer questions the students had about how to recycle within the district, and they're hoping to do more recycling. Their fourth grade students went to the State Museum in Albany this week and learned about the Haudenosaunee and got to sit in a real longhouse while they were there. Their K through 2 SEL classroom learned about the life cycle of a chick. They hatched eggs, and now the chicks are at Old Adrian's Farm for the families to visit. And then 4 of their 5th grade students participated in the NISMA solos this past weekend, representing their school.
And there's actually a lot of pride. We're going to start here with this video that the SGO at FDR created, and thank you, Margaret. It was shared with the board, and she said we should all see it. So if we could play the video, and then I have some more exciting pride after that.
We just wanted to take some time to acknowledge Staff Appreciation Week.
And we want to celebrate you and everything you do for us.
To our teachers and administrators.
To our teaching assistants and aides.
To our guidance department and security monitors.
To our secretaries and health office staff.
To our custodians and food service staff.
To our bus drivers and facility workers.
And to our coaches and advisors.
We are beyond grateful for the time and energy you dedicate to our school.
With your effort and dedication, you're preparing us for the future.
Your sacrifices do not go unnoticed, and your impact is our.
Your support motivates us each and every day to better ourselves.
You build confidence.
You encourage kindness.
You spread positivity. And you create inclusivity.
You go above and beyond to make us successful, and we couldn't thank you enough.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you. To teachers.
The student athletes at FDR really appreciate the teachers and staff.
Thank you. You're the best.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. Let's go.
Hey teachers, thanks for teaching us. Thanks for being patient.
Hi, thank you to all the teachers.
Thank you for being great today, FDR.
Thanks to all the staff. I appreciate you guys for what you do for this organization.
Thank you, staff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, teachers.
Thank you,
staff. You're amazing.
You.
You're the best.
Thank you. You're awesome.
Thank you, staff.
I appreciate you, staff.
Thank you. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
We recognize your hard work, and we're so grateful for it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
We love you.
Thank you.
You're the best.
Thank you, staff.
We see your hard work.
You're the best.
Thank you, teachers. Thank you for everything.
Thank you. You're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You're the best.
I know most of us give you guys a hard time, but we appreciate all your work. Thank you.
Happy Teacher Appreciation Week.
We love you guys.
Thank you.
All staff. Okay, next it's very exciting for me to introduce our next incoming superintendent, who's on the agenda tonight, Dr. Pedro Roman, here in the audience with his family right here. So I hope that we can see that for the people screening at home. Thank you to everyone who gave input on the thought exchange, who welcomed Dr. Roman at the candidate walkthroughs. And special thanks to our Board of Education and the stakeholder interview committee members for your participation in the process. And actually, Dr. Roman is going to say a few words for us tonight.
Testing? All right. So first of all, I want to say good evening to the Board of Trustees and good evening to the Hyde Park community. Before I share a few remarks, I want to first start off by saying thank you to the board for their vote of confidence and to all the individuals that I had an opportunity to meet during the interview process. The time that was devoted, the efforts, the thought-provoking questions, it really demonstrated the commitment and dedication to the district and the community. I would like to take a moment to also recognize my amazing family. They're sitting right to my left, my wife Melanie and my youngest son Nicholas, who are present here today. They are my inspiration, and I'm so blessed to have their unwavering support and love in everything I pursue. And before I engaged in this process, I told the board I had to get their permission first, and so I did. This evening, I'm overwhelmed with joy. I'm honored and excited to serve as the next superintendent of schools for the Hyde Park Central School District. I'm looking forward to beginning our work together with our dedicated trustees, our students, our families, our community, our administrators, teachers, faculty, and staff to build on the excellent work and success that has already been accomplished thus far under Superintendent Kafka, and also I had the pleasure of meeting former Superintendent Greer. And just want to say that we're looking to create greater opportunities for access for our students, for each and every student. In the coming weeks, I will be sharing with the Hyde Park community my listening and learning plan as I look forward to meeting with various stakeholders to understand what are the aspirations, the strengths, the opportunities for the next level of growth for our district. As your next superintendent, I'm committed to collaborating, being visible, actively listening, and acting with integrity. Most importantly, I commit to ensuring that all students succeed and thrive in our schools, no matter who they are, no matter where they live, where they go to school, or where they come from. Collectively, I look forward to focusing on trust and relationship building during the district's next level of growth as we aim to make our good district great. Thank you.
Thank you, and we're so excited to have you coming. Yeah, that's been overwhelming response from the whole community, so, and really nice to see you. I'll meet you after, you stay the whole time. A few other pieces of pride here. Celeste Goris has been named International Champion of the 2022-23 International Soccer Challenge in the 14-year-old division and will be awarded the Knights of Columbus coveted International Soccer Challenge Championship Trophy for this great success. So congratulations to Celeste. The FDR musical groups participated in the Thrills and Trills competition and had an amazing showing. Congratulations to our talented FDR music students and their dedicated teachers. Also, the district art show was a resounding success. It just seems to grow every year. Hundreds of pieces of artwork transformed the high school into an art gallery this past Sunday. Many families were in attendance and got to enjoy a vibrant display of art for grades K through 12. I personally save the seniors for last in the library. It's really like I do the whole ring and then show up there at the end. The Fine and Performing Arts Department would like to give a special shout out to our facilities team for helping to make this and all our events a smooth success. So congratulations to our amazing artists and their teachers. That's all I have for pride at the moment.
Okay. Anyone else have any pride?
Just a quick shout out to our staff. On April 28th, they resurrected the Cupcake Challenge, which is a fundraiser. It started as a friendly competition between elementary schools, and the the middle school joined in this year, where each school puts forward 2 bakers and they bake cupcakes. Fundraiser, a lot of fun, but all of the proceeds go to our scholarship fund. So I just think it's important for the community to know that our staff gets together to support our students in this way. So it was a lot of fun, and the winning bakers get to keep the trophy in their building for the year to brag, and then next year we'll see who wins. So,
do we get a team?
Yeah.
The board get a team in there?
I think we should work on that. Are you volunteering to bake?
Yeah. I'll show you some of Any other pride? Okay, moving on to 7.1, our superintendent's report.
Yes, I just have one more item. Melissa Lawson and I, Assistant Superintendent, met with the town of Hyde Park Police Chief, Bob Benson, to learn about the new body camera program for the school resource officers. In a nutshell, they only come on if there's an incident, and they have a way of making sure confidentiality is maintained if ever that footage needs to be used, really for the protection of student staff as well as our officers. And then they actually came, Benson with 3 of his officers came to our administrative meeting today to answer questions and make sure, again, that student privacy is maintained. And I want to say this, for the community to hear in public that, people might assume that body cameras are part of what police are wearing everywhere, but this is something new for us. And so I wanted the public to be aware, and if they have any questions, they can contact either Ms. Lawson or myself. That's all I have, and then I guess I'll start with you for cabinet reports.
Okay, thank you, Aviva. I just wanted to recognize our nurses this week. It was School Nurses Day on Wednesday, and I just want to say that they take such amazing care of our students and our staff and our families, so I wanted to recognize them this evening. Also, we are well underway with our interview process for the Violet Avenue principal position that is open. We had 46 applicants for the position, and I want to thank the Violet Avenue community for participating in the thought exchange. That really helped us set criteria as we weeded through the applications and selected candidates to bring in for interviews. So we are about halfway through that process, and hopefully we'll have a candidate soon. We also had our district SAVE committee meeting this past week, and at that meeting we talked about the body cameras and that program, and we also discussed a buddy system and the use of an alert button for staff that work alone in the buildings in the evening, so that if there's a medical emergency, they have a way to reach out for help. So we are planning to get some alert buttons for people to push if they need help and they're alone in the building. We also are underway with planning a full comprehensive safety audit for our district. We'll be contracting with Putnam Northern Westchester Boice to do that work with us in the fall. And it's really a perfect time to do that work as we are planning to add security staff and security vestibules. It's really a good time to look at all of our safety and security practices across the district and to look for ways in which we can tighten up process and procedures. And also we are planning for our very first SEL, Social and Emotional Learning, and School Safety Institute this summer. I just sent out a survey to staff across the district to give me some feedback on what they would like to learn about. It will be a 3-day institute where staff have options and choices to select professional development opportunities to learn more about how to meet our students' needs and mental health needs across the district, and also to just learn about crisis intervention and hone our skills. So we're really looking forward to that and hope that it's something that will grow over time.
Thank you. So just last week, the state legislature passed all of the bills that are necessary to complete the state budget for 2023-24. As expected, the enacted state budget fully funds foundation aid. The board may remember that you actually adopted a budget that use the governor's proposal because you had to adopt the budget before the state budget passed this year. However, we are getting more money in foundation aid than we had in our budget. We're getting about 113,000 more. And the reason is really the timing from when the governor's proposed state aid came out compared to when it was in the legislative budget. When the governor proposed her budget, they were using an estimated amount for the change in CPI for last year. I think they had estimated just under 8%, but I think the board may remember I've been talking about the change in CPI was 8% last year. So that was the factor that is used in the final budget. So we'll have 113,000 more in our budget next year than we were planning for. And then on top of that, we also had set aside $494,173 for the high impact tutoring. That was in the governor's proposal too, but that is not included in the final budget. So right now we have those funds allocated in contractual for high impact tutoring. Once we determine how we'll spend those funds, we'll actually submit a budget transfer request to the board after July 1st. Because you've enacted the budget, it's a little too late to change the budget, or it is definitely too late, but we'll handle it that way through a budget transfer request.
Yeah, and I'll say there's already a few things that the board is aware of, but the public is not, that we know that there are some needs, but we didn't know exactly what they would be because it was too early in the school year. So examples are, we've talked about class sizes in K through 3 during these years while we're still in pandemic times to keep the class size lower than the contractual 30, so to keep it, either break out another section if it goes above 25 in K through 3, or in places where we don't have enough space in the building for another classroom to hire a teaching assistant for that classroom so that there's a full-time other professional staff there with the class. So we don't know exactly what those numbers are. We have a lot of classes really hovering around that 24 to 26 range. So although we've said, it could be in a case of a grade level, like maybe we'll need to hire 2 teaching assistants, or maybe it'll be 0. So we know that some of those costs will be coming, and there may be some additional teaching assistants in special education as we look at those numbers, whether it's a full-time model or a half-time model. So those are just 2 of the aspects that we're aware of, but we want to be responsible and make sure we need the staff before we post. So we knew that those funds were going to be happening, and we just want to be public about it. It was not appropriate to add it to the budget as we were not sure about the exact numbers. And I may be missing something, but I just wanted to say it at this early stage.
I think you covered it. Yeah, yeah, and there'll be more on that once we do know, like over the summer. So also, Director of Facilities Elliot Sheldon provided a response to the discussion at the last Board of Ed meeting regarding the community chat and FDR summer construction and how it'll affect athletics. I'm just going to read some of what was in Elliot's response in his email. As soon as school is over, the plan is to move all of the weight room equipment into the AB gym. The C gym will have gym supplies piled up in the center with plastic covering them. Most of the stuff will be from the closets that don't have ceilings. That area will be off limits to non-construction personnel. As soon as the weight room work is completed, the facilities department will put the weight room back together. It's also important to note that that work includes new ceiling and lights in that area. And then for the turf replacement at the outdoor athletic facilities, that'll begin immediately after graduation. Once the turf is replaced, the prep work starts for the track. That'll take the contractor about 7 to 10 days to prep, and then a few days to resurface and line it. The duration of that work should be about 2 to 3 weeks. And then if everything goes to plan, the weight room and the athletic complex will reopen right before fall sports are scheduled to start in mid-August. There's also some important things to keep in mind. There might be a few days when the gym will be off limits over the summer, specifically when the contractor is doing abatement above the weight room and some of the locker rooms. There'll also be emergency egress exits that'll be off limits, and because of that, we just can't have people in the gym. And that's a requirement, I believe, of the Department of Labor. But those closures, that closure shouldn't be more than 1 week. And then also in the small pods at FDR, there'll be a few rooms that won't be accessible just for a few days. All of that work will be contained within a construction barrier, so people won't mistakenly go into that area. And then if needed, the facilities department is going to, or will prepare another field for football and anywhere else that may be needed for the summer. And then once all of the contractors are on board, we don't have the bids yet. So once everything is on board and executed, we'll have a better timeline for the summer. I'm going to use that to segue into the FDR roof bids rejection. There's a resolution on tonight's agenda to reject roof bids for the renovation at FDR. The Palumbo Group, together with CS Arch, reviewed and evaluated the bids that we received and determined that they're over budget, and also I think they determined they were just not reasonable. They recommend that the district reject all of the bids for the roofing renovation project. The project team worked on cost-saving measures to prepare a rebid that was just issued this week. The responses are due on Tuesday afternoon. I had just asked the board to have a resolution on your Tuesday night meeting, but I jumped the gun a little. The bids will be ready for your approval at your next meeting, which is Tuesday, May 25th. So thank you for agreeing to that, but it won't be necessary to have that resolution on next Tuesday's meeting. And then finally, I just want to talk a little bit about the treasurer's reports. So District Treasurer Shonda Merrill recently met with a consultant from RBT CPAs, and she worked with him to revamp the process for preparing treasurer's reports. The new process puts more reliance on the accounting software, and the reports will look completely different than the reports the board received in the past. On tonight's agenda, there are 6 months treasurer's reports for board acceptance. It's October 2022 to March 2023. And at the next meeting, Shonda will be here to give a short presentation about the changes. And I also want to mention that even though there's 6 months worth of treasurer reports on the agenda tonight, Shonda's been here for a month and a half. So she caught up on the ones that we were behind on before, has the new process, and she'll be here at the next meeting to explain what the changes are. So thank you.
For that extra foundation aid, will that just come out of fund balance, less fund balance?
If it's not spent, we'll have more that goes into fund balance next year. So it's the same effect.
Oh, it's for the, okay.
Yeah.
All right, good evening. As the board and the public know, we have had a very successful UPK program here at Hyde Park for many, many years. That success is due in part to our two community-based organizations, or CBOs, Holy Trinity, which is now Holy Trinity Annex, and our Abilities First partners. What you may not know is that the Universal Pre-K program is funded out of a grant that we apply for every year and receive. As a recipient of a large grant, over $1 million, that funds that program here at Hyde Park, there are certain audits and quality performance regulations that we work with the State Ed Department, the Office of Early Learning, every year to comply with. So this year, our audit, it's called a Quality Assurance Protocol, or we call it a QAP for short. The office here, in conjunction with both of our community partners, has filed the QAP in the business portal for review by the Office of Early Learning, and we're looking forward to our reviewer coming out on May 23rd to do site visits and inspections of documents and facilities. As you might remember from previous years where we've had desk audits and a QAP last year, Hyde Park is often held up as the exemplar for our program and partnership with both of our CBOs. So we expect to get similar results and findings this year. One of the things that I'm going to share that was a result of last year's QAP is actually taking place tomorrow. So there is a small committee, a number of UPK teachers from each of our CBOs, and one kindergarten teacher from each of our 4 buildings who will be touring different classrooms tomorrow. So we're going to go and visit both of the CBO sites, and both of the UPK sites are going to come visit 2 of our 4 elementary schools tomorrow, and then we'll visit 2 others in the fall. This collaboration hopes to help the transition process between UPK and kindergarten while building stronger relationships between both programs. So I know I can speak for Hyde Park. We're really excited to take our partnership to the next level, and we'll let our CBOs decide after tomorrow how excited they are. In terms of summer curriculum writing, as you know, every summer we engage with our staff to do curriculum writing and refining both of our curriculum and our assessments. I wanted to share this piece with the board because it's particularly relevant to the board retreat that happened this year where we discussed the Seal of Civic Readiness. There are a number of teachers from Haviland, I know Eric's in the audience here today, who have a particular interest in learning more about the Seal and spending time this summer learning more and collaborating around what that might look like at the middle school level as we start to build that up and forward. In order to support their work, because sometimes we really want to learn about something and we get stuck during that summer curriculum writing process, we're looking to contract with Kathy Bellino, who came and spoke to the board, who has said she's available for at least 2 days this summer to work with our team to help guide them through that process. So I just want to say thank you to the team of Haviland teachers who are taking the kind of leading edge on this, and thank you for Kathy and to Kathy for supporting both the board and our efforts. In terms of summer programs, quick update, we're fully staffed in our K-5 Summer Bridge program, our 6-8 Summer Bridge program, and our 9-12 FDR Summer School. We have put out anticipated notices for hiring. We did a preliminary review of our students, where they are, how many are in good standing, how many are in risk of needing credit recovery over the summer, and we started doing our projections. So I just want to thank Mr. Ruel and his team for helping put that preliminary staffing requests forward. Some good news, since the portal opened last week, it'll be a week tomorrow that our K-5 group, the portal for registration's been open, letters have been backpacked home to families, 2 Parent Square messages have been sent out, and as we're sitting here right now, we have 267 kindergarten through 5th grade students already registered for our program. So we're on track. If you remember, last year and the year before, we were able to provide programming for our K through 8 students, right around 400 students both summers. So we're on track to do the same this year, so we're really excited about that. And then finally, this might be a recurring update that I'm going to provide you, but I think last time we met, or the time before, I shared with you that the Board of Regents had a Blue Ribbon Commission that was put together to talk about graduation measures and like what it takes to be a graduate in New York State. Well, more information has come out since then, and what they're calling this is the Performance-Based Learning and Assessment Network Plan, and there's going to be a pilot that's put together. If you go to the state website, there is a link where you can give feedback to the pilot plan, and the commission is looking for districts that are really well positioned to move forward with performance-based learning assessments, districts that are somewhat well positioned, and districts that haven't even started the work. So typically in a competitive pilot like this, they would look for attributes of readiness and only go with school districts that were like ready to do the work. The education department is changing tact and saying, if we're going to really do this and do this right and in an equitable way, we need to bring forward and study what it takes to help districts at all levels of readiness move forward. So that application will become available for districts to apply for in the fall, and it'll happen right around the same time that the Blue Ribbon Commission is going to share their findings on what it means, in terms of commencement level tests and or portfolios or performance-based learning. One other piece I'm going to add is in that presentation, if you go to the State Ed website, is that one of the recommendations that the State Ed Department is making for all school districts is to really define the attributes that you want as a community and larger as a state in our graduates. And they're looking at a process that Hyde Park just did, the Portrait of a Graduate. So I know there's other school districts in the area that are pursuing this. There's other states that have pursued that, and I feel like we're well positioned to do this work forward, or moving forward, because we've just completed our process. And I think that's it for my update.
Thank you. Moving on to
Mike, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So 2 quick questions. Where are we in our readiness, first of all? And second of all, is there a plan to bring a proposal in front of the board that we participate or request being part of the pilot?
So good questions. I think I could answer the first one, definitely, and the second one, I'd want to look at the application before making a recommendation, and of course, discussing that, with a broader group than just myself. I will say, if it were up to me, I think the pilot is a really great opportunity to get out in front of what could be a fundamental change in the way that we assess students moving forward with the support of the State Ed Department. But that's just my opinion. Your other question, Mike, was about our readiness. Yeah, I would say that we are somewhere, we're not positioned where we're doing performance-based assessments as part of our requirements here, so I wouldn't say we're on the high end of the readiness scale, but we've been exploring and doing this type of work. I think the project that we're putting together, the Winner Circle project, really is like an exemplar of that type of work moving forward. So I'd say we're in like the emerging phase. Our work with Myron Dueck this summer, last summer, and then again right now with some book studies about challenging our assessment practices fall right in alignment with this work. So I would put us strongly in the emerging category.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Moving on to 7.2, the 23-24 adopted budget from Linda Steinberg.
The remote isn't working, so I get to use the keyboard tonight. Okay. So good evening. Tonight I'm here just to talk about the adopted budget. The board already adopted the budget, so really I'm here to present it just for another opportunity for people to hear about it, because the budget vote is next week on Tuesday. I did add a couple of slides about the Prop 2, the bus proposition, because there's some questions I've received that I want to address, so that's what's different in the presentation. But other than that, I think I might go through it fairly quickly unless the board has questions and would like me to go over some things in more detail. But first of all, the first proposition is for the actual general operating budget for 2023-24. That amount is the $115.2 million. It is an 8.97% increase, or $9.4 million. The majority of that increase comes from the increase in foundation aid. We are at our tax cap for the tax levy. We are not exceeding the amount that we're allowed to levy under the tax cap law. But the tax cap increase is the tax levy increase is 2.4 million, or 3.7%. So I don't have the slide that shows the calculation, but I'll just say the 3.7% is made up mostly of the 2% increase that we're allowed to increase our levy for this change in CPI. That's the portion of the tax cap calculation that's limited to 2%. And the 1.7% actually comes from new properties that are on our tax rolls. Our increase in our new taxable properties was 1.72%. This slide shows what we budgeted for the state aid. So we budgeted based on the governor's proposal, because we didn't have the final enacted budget by then. So like I had just mentioned a few minutes ago in my report, the foundation aid that we're receiving is over $100,000 more than what is budgeted here. It's actually about $113,000 more. And that was just for timing from when the governor's proposal was created and the information that was available when the state legislature had their budget put in. But overall, we're receiving $4.9 million more in foundation aid, or 21%. That's the largest increase in foundation aid that we've ever experienced. And it does make us fully funded. It's our new base amount, so going forward for the 24-25 school year, our foundation aid base will be the $28.1 million, and the changes will be on top of that for that future year. And then most other items that are listed on here are really tied to expenses. So, like, for example, we don't receive Boice aid unless we spend the money. So all the things that we have in our budget that are aidable, the aid amounts are reflected here. So overall, we're expecting 18.98% increase in our state aid. We always just show the revenues and the expenditures in some broad categories. The revenue categories that we show are the tax levy, state aid, other revenues, and the fund balance appropriation. So the tax levy, like I just mentioned, is within the tax cap. It's at the maximum amount that we're allowed to levy under the law. State aid is the amount from the governor's proposal. Other revenues include things like interest income and charges to other districts. We can bill other districts for non-resident students that attend our schools. Those are usually foster students. And then we use the fund balance appropriation amount just to balance the budget, because our total revenues in our budget has to match our total expenditures. And here we have the categories that we show for the expenditures. Obviously, our salaries and our employee benefits, the first line and the last line, are always the highest, and that's because we employ people. So we spend just under 75% of our budget on salaries and benefits. And our total budget, $115.2 million for expenses, is what matches the revenue budget too. We are required to give this information to the public, the three components of the budget, which are program, administrative, and capital. Our program costs are 77.4% of the total budget. The administrative costs are 9.96%, and the capital costs are 12.58% of the total budget. We're also required to explain any transfers that we have to the Capital Projects Fund. Every year we seek to have a cash capital project. We're allowed by New York State to have one cash capital project for $100,000, for which we receive all of the aid the year the project actually occurs. So for this budget vote, we're asking for a $100,000 capital outlay project for a wheelchair lift at Netherwood for the stage. Last year, we asked the voters for a similar project, but for North Park. That was approved last year, the North Park lift, but that work won't occur until this summer because we can only have one a year. So we're on a 4-year cycle. So even though we're asking for the platform lift for Netherwood, in this year's budget, the work won't occur for 2 years. And then the next few slides are the additions and the savings. Unless the board would like me to go through them again, I don't think I will, because we've gone through this before. I will just say that the $494,000 that we budgeted for the high impact tutoring is the amount that I had mentioned we would be requesting a budget transfer for once we know how we're going to spend those funds. And overall, we've added $6.3 million to the budget, but most of that is funded with foundation aid increase, or the state aid increase. We do also have to provide information about a contingency budget. So if the budget isn't passed, the board will have a few choices. They could either put up the same budget for another vote in June, they could change the budget and put up that revised budget for another vote in June, or you could decide to go right to contingency. If we go to a contingency budget, we have to reduce our overall budget by at least $2.7 million. Of that amount, $2.4 million is just the tax levy increase. We would have to have a 0% change in our tax levy, and then also reduce the budget by some items that are listed here. These are items that would have to be removed from a contingent budget. They include salary increases for non-union staff, all of our equipment purchases, student supplies, that capital outlay project I just talked about, and we would also have to come up with $430,000 additional in administrative costs to reduce the budget. So the contingent budget would be $112.4 million. Okay, so Proposition 2 is another, it's another proposition, it's another vote on the ballot. We are looking to replace the school buses. We have a plan in place that we've had for many years, where we typically replace our buses every 10 to 12 years. This year is a little different because in addition to the gasoline-powered buses that we're seeking to purchase, we're also looking to purchase one electric bus. That would be our first electric bus for the district, and because we haven't upgraded our facilities yet, we would also need an electric vehicle charger for that. The total cost for the school bus purchases is $1.3 million. We do get state aid of 64.8%, so the total cost to the district would be $457,972. I do want to mention that the reason that we're asking for an electric bus is that this is a new mandate that came into effect last year. In April of 2022, the state budget included a requirement that by 2035, all student transportation would be done with zero-emission vehicles. And under that law, the school district purchases after 2027 must all be zero-emission. And by 2035, every single bus in our fleet would have to be zero-emission. So as I mentioned before, we are in the process of hiring a transportation consultant. There'll actually be a contract on the next board meeting agenda, and the purpose of that consultant is to help us plan out the process for purchasing the electric school buses, or I should say the zero-emission buses. And I also wanted to share this slide because I've gotten some questions about the feasibility of the buses in next year's budget. We do have a debt service plan that the board has approved for many years now. We used to have a $1.6 million local share, which means the difference between what we pay in debt and what we receive back in aid for the projects that generated that debt would be $1.6 million. After we had the budget vote for the science, or the capital projects vote for the science labs and HVAC project, the board agreed to leave that level at $1.87 million. So next year, for 2023-24, our budget plan doesn't exceed what the board has approved in the past. So the purchase of the bus next year is going to keep us within our debt service plan. And I just think it's really important to mention that. I don't know what will happen in the future. That's why we have the consultant. But for next year, we're not looking to increase the budget for the debt service at all. And finally, we have another proposition, Proposition 3, to have a student board member. We have to have this proposition on our ballot every 2 years to ask the voters for permission to have a student board member. The budget vote is Tuesday, May 16th at Haviland Middle School from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. I believe tonight was the voter registration night. It ended at 8 o'clock, so hopefully anyone that wanted to come for that was able to. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Linda, could you, so you did this presentation a couple nights ago, right? We did the budget forum.
Yes,
there
the
was a
hearing.
handful of people there. But one of the things you did, you explained what the plan is with that electric bus. And what I heard from people in the audience was that was really helpful. So could you kind of talk a little bit about what the plan, why are we getting one bus, right? And because I know there's been a lot of thought, but the public doesn't always hear that.
Well, because we're faced with this mandate, it's in law now that we have to purchase electric vehicles or zero-emission vehicles. I keep saying electric, but if there's another zero-emission bus that we can purchase, that would qualify. The plan is to buy the electric bus next year. We were thinking it would be really good for us to get used to it, for us to have it on site, let our bus drivers use it, get used to it, have the mechanics, explore it and figure out how the batteries work and how the system works in general. Because we don't have infrastructure changes yet, we do have to buy its own charger for it. But one of the things that we're looking for from our consultant is to come up with a plan that's feasible. Like, we really want to be able to meet the requirements of the mandate, but also do it in a way that is reasonable and that our community can afford. And so some of the things that we'll be looking into, not just planning out when we'll have the purchases of the buses, but how will we power them? Like, are there alternate sources that we could use? So we're looking into things like solar power or any other source that we have. I've also read that there's some companies that are getting into leasing buses. So if that's something that's possible for us, I want to look into that too. So did I answer your question?
And that electric bus, that is state aidable, right? So
Yes.
that's part of it. I
Yes.
think there's some confusion out there with people that That's not aidable yet, but it is aidable.
It is aidable. I don't know if there'll be any additional aid, but right now it's aidable at the
At the-
transportation rate. The state is saying that the electric buses will last longer, so the aid is over 12 years compared to over 5 years for the gas-powered buses. But we currently keep our gasoline-powered buses up to 12 years. So I'm not sure how long an electric bus how long we'll be able to keep it. There are other grants and aids too that are available, and we're applying for grants. Our consultant is going to help us find even more. We're actually applying for grants for this bus in particular. We just don't know if we qualify or if we'll get those, so it's not included in the budget.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Linda?
Thank you.
Thanks.
One question. Would you just review the breakdown of the administration percentage of the budget? Because
Yes.
a lot of people think that is strictly administrator salaries.
Yes, a lot of people think that's administrator salaries, and that's not true. There's actually administrator salaries in program and in capital. So like for our facilities department is all in capital. So Mr. Sheldon's salary is budgeted in the capital portion of the budget, and so is his assistants. In program, we have the transportation director and the assistant director budgeted there, and we also budget for the administrators in special education in program. In administrative, we have the other administrators, so like the central office administrators here, our principals are budgeted there, but so is all the support staff for those positions. So all of the staff that works in this building, all of the clerical and secretaries are budgeted in program, all of the school secretaries are budgeted in program, or I'm sorry, admin. Yeah, so I'll back up. All of the secretaries in the buildings and here at district office are part of the administrative budget. We also have our other costs, like our legal costs, the financing costs, the consultants that we use like the transportation consultant is budgeted there. We have a financial advisor that we have that's budgeted in that code. And we also have certain fees associated with employee benefits that we provide. Those are all budgeted in the admin portion of the budget. Sure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to 8.1, public participation. Can I get a motion?
So moved, Tibbetts.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Can I have clarification who seconded? Thank you.
Okay. Motion carried. Please note, as a general rule, public participation is limited to 3 minutes per speaker, with the first public participation segment limited to 21 minutes. The segment of time may be modified by the board as deemed appropriate. The board requests that remarks be courteous and respectful of all. Would anyone like to address the board?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carol Pickering. I've lived and/or worked here for 23 years, and proud to say that I'm a retired superintendent from this district. And I came tonight especially to welcome Dr. Pedro Roman and his family, Melanie and Nicholas. You've been an amazing person in the audience here. And I just want to say to you, Dr. Roman, that you are joining an amazing district. We are not Westchester. We don't want to be Westchester. We are not wealthy, but we are loving and supportive and caring. And I will tell you that in my years here, from instruction to facilities to a culture that values all the children and the needs of the children, and the staff, and where every aspect of our public education system is looked at, taken care of, respected, promoted, and moving forward in a climate of improvement. Are we there yet? No. Have we achieved all our goals? No. But we have our eyes on the prize, and we are going, and we are getting there. And any of you who have been, and there are many in the room here, who have been in this community as long or longer than I have know we have come a long way. And I am so proud of that. And so, Dr. Roman, I live in town. Here's my contact information. I will not bother you at all, but you can certainly contact me, and Melanie, welcome, and Nicholas. We haven't had a young man be part of the superintendent's team in a very, very long time. I'm not sure any of us could even remember that. So welcome, and you're so welcome, and just any time, and thank you for joining us. And thank you, Board of Education. You've done an amazing job, and all the people who did it. And I didn't mean to overlook, we have Mary Beth Scattergood here, who's president of our teachers union, and Dennis and Jamie, right, Dr. Jamie? Oh, yeah, okay. And so they're part of the whole team. So it's a great place, and thank you for coming.
Okay. Would anyone else like to address the board? Okay. At this time, we will close public participation. All right, moving on to 9.1, board subcommittee reports.
So I'll start with the Government Liaison Committee. That committee is comprised of Linda Steinberg, myself, and Denise Beery. We met this week with the Dutchess County Industrial Development Association. I'll refer to it as the IDA. They contacted us because they wanted to know how we were doing in the process for the Bellafield pilot. For those people who aren't aware, a big development is being planned, and phase 2 of it is requesting a payment in lieu of taxes. So Bellafield had given us a pilot, and they wanted to know how it was going. So we met with them. It was a really, I thought, a productive meeting, and Linda, feel free to chime in. The purpose was for us to give them our feedback, and what we shared with them was that our seven-member Board of Education unanimously decided that we could not sign a letter of support for the original pilot presented to the district by the developers. We stressed that we have a fiduciary responsibility to the district, to our students, to our taxpayers, and that the pilot was not in our best interests. We want to negotiate with them, and the IDA encouraged that. They supported and reaffirmed our belief that a pilot is negotiable. So I think that was the most important part of the meeting, that it's not a take it or leave it offer, it's negotiable. So we shared that we are willing to negotiate. We do like the idea of the project, but that we need to work with them on the pilot. So that's where we stand. And I think it was a really productive meeting. So that's it for that one.
Any other committees meet? Okay. Moving on to 9.2, board discussion, including the consent agenda items.
Community chat?
Hey, Mike, yeah. Under board discussions, there was a community chat.
Do you want to start?
You want to start?
Sure, you start and I'll chime in.
Okay. I take my notes on my computer because I can't read my own writing. Margaret takes hand notes.
No, I did.
There were a few. It was well attended, and we appreciated that, and we got a lot of interesting feedback. Some people were really appreciative of the response of facilities to the requests about the weight room and those sorts of things that we had talked about before. I would say for me there were three primary concerns that came up, and there's probably more. Margaret has more. One was something we've already talked about, the electric bus. There were some real concerns about the cost of purchasing an electric bus, and I want to thank Linda for that sort of explanation that we really want to ease our way into it. And I've sort of been thinking about this. One could say that, gee, let's just wait. But if you wait, then the pain is much greater later on because you have to buy more. And if we ease our way in, we can figure out where the pain points and pinch points are and work our ways around this. So I actually really think we're doing it the right way with doing it a little bit at a time. So just want to throw my 2 cents in about that. There was a concern about, and I think Linda was at this one, there was a concern about transportation after school, a late bus, and there is no late bus. And so I think Linda was going to look into what the issues are with, there's a late bus, which is at 3:30. There was a question, is it possible to get a late bus? And I think what we said is we don't even know what the issues are here, so we would just bring it to the committee. There were concerns about class size at North Park, but I think we've talked about that in the budget, that there may be, we're worried about class size, so we covered that too. There was a concern about, there's a program called Reading Plus that students use in the grammar schools, I believe. And the concern, I think, boiled down to parents, that when the students do this, they go through some program, but then there's no opportunity for the parents to go back and read what the students had seen, right? So if a parent wanted to say, gee, I wonder what you're looking at, can we have a conversation about that? There was no, I think, technologically easy way for the parent to go back and sort of reread what the student had done. I think that captures what the concern was. You can tell me if I've got that wrong.
Yep, that's it. Do you have a few more?
Let me just jump in, if I could,
Sure.
before I forget. The one thing I didn't talk about in terms of class size is that it is time, we've talked about it before, for an enrollment study. Because one thing is not having enough space and not being able to break out another section. Another is just that North Park is the largest school with the largest class sizes overall, and that it's time every 5 years for an enrollment study. And actually, our numbers are up a bit from last year. So for people that lived through the HPE closing, we actually have more students. So it's not about closing an elementary school, but it is about looking at the district as a whole and the different population patterns. And that's something that by policy happens every 5 years. So we're due to start that process this summer in terms of finding a contractor for that.
And I want to acknowledge that Margaret actually pointed that out at the community chat. I just forgot to put it in here.
It was really nice because the parents spoke very positively, I have to say, about the teachers, specifically at North Park. And one of the parents' concern was that they don't want to see the good teachers get burnt out because the class sizes are so big. And I thought that was really coming from a place of concern for the parents. You know, a third grade classroom of 30 students, you know, you can't navigate through the room, right? COVID, everybody's on top of each other. So there were some real valid concerns. And just an honest question of how do we support those large classes? And we've already started those discussions. One other thing was the parent portal question. Somebody brought up that they have a parent portal from another district and there's an ability to see student grades, progress, attendance, but it's not possible through ours. So, you know, out of our realm of expertise. But the question was, when we transition to Infinite Campus, will there be that capability? We know that there was it looked like a menu item, you know, a list of, if we get this package, you get these services. So the question from parents was, will they be able to track student grades and progress more and attendance more with the new system? So maybe Rick could explain that at some point. And I just wanted to say how great it was that Linda Steinberg stepped up and came to the meeting, didn't have to, you know, after a long day, she was like, would it be helpful for me to be there? And then Megan D'Alessandro, the principal at North Park, just showed up and said, you know, I'll make sure everybody gets to where they need to meet. You know, she was in the building all day being a principal and then took her evening. It's a Board of Ed chat. It's not expected that anybody else be there. So it was just appreciated that they stepped up and joined us and helped out.
Thank you. The next community chat and our final community chat of this school year will be on Thursday, June 15th at the district office from 7 to 8. So it seems like these things are working for us. We get a lot of good feedback, so I encourage everyone to come and have a chat with us during these times. Okay, moving on to...
Mike, would you mind if I bring something up for
No,
discussion? So on our committee for the transportation for the electric buses, Carl is our board member, but he's coming off the board, and we're wondering if Carl would like to be a community member on the committee and continue with that. And also, we're wondering if the board would like to have a board representative on that committee. most of the work is done. We do have a meeting, we'll be meeting with the consultant after the board approves the contract, and then we'll meet with the consultant again at the end of the summer or in the fall to review what they'll be presenting to the board.
Would anyone like to be on it? Oh,
You don't need it.
Okay, that
Yeah.
was my question. Can
Yes,
Carl
sorry.
count as, our,
Sure?
we don't need
Yeah.
a board
Yeah, we don't, it's not required.
okay, you're it.
well, we can I'm assuming we'll get a new board member next week, and, perhaps we can delegate some new responsibilities to that person, so you don't need to know tonight, right?
We don't need to,
Okay.
we don't need to know tonight, and you don't have to have a board
Okay,
member on
I
the
think it'd be
committee.
good to have a
Yeah.
board member on
Okay.
that, but let's see what the new
Okay.
person
All right.
wants to do.
Thank you.
Mike, before you move on to the other one, I know we've kind of had the practice of, if we had answers at the ready for some of the questions in community chat, that we offered them now. And while I do agree that Director Wirt would be best positioned to talk about the parent portal question, I could talk a little bit about Reading Plus that Mike brought up, if you'd like. Okay, so the Reading Plus program, I know this has come up in previous board meetings. If my memory serves me right, maybe last winter or spring, we had a discussion a little bit about the program. But for those of you that don't remember or don't know, the program is designed to do a couple of things. So it's an integrated reading intervention program where the company partners with really hundreds of authors and publishers and creates like a licensing deal, which what this does for us is it allows the program to do something called leveling the books. So leveling the books based on a student's reading level. So students then have access and choice to a wide variety of texts, articles, excerpts from books, etc., that the district, if they were to purchase these in and of themselves, financially wouldn't be feasible. For those of you that have students in like the kindergarten through second grade, there's like book bundles that come home based on reading level. It's like that, but instead of a handful of books, it's literally hundreds, if not thousands of books. So the first piece of the Reading Plus program is to give students access to that wider variety of leveled texts. The real purpose that we're using it is as that reading intervention. So as students go through and read the article, the program itself tracks the articles that they read, the difficulty of the articles that they read, how many they've read. So there's like a motivating factor there. It helps to build reading stamina, which is one thing, and comprehension. So there's comprehension questions at the end of the article or the excerpt that you read that you can submit your answer to. Those are all the upsides. The downside of something like this is fair use law. I mean, as an author, you get a royalty every time somebody accesses something. So in the work that I did previously, I would have to negotiate with publishers to do that type of work when we would do curriculum work at Boice. Just like the music industry, publishers are feeling the strain of having their work accessible to everyone all the time, where you used to have to go and buy that trade book and pay the $6 or whatever for it. So the licensing agreements that are made are sometimes limited. When I spoke with the Reading Plus representative last time, what they shared with me is there's really two things in terms of ease of accessibility and repeating back to a text that a student may have read. The first piece has to do with the number of times the license allows us to access the text. That's the first piece, and that has to do with payment to the author and the licensing agreement that the company has with the author. The other piece has to do with the assessment component of the Reading Plus program itself. So, for instance, if I read an article and I answered the comprehension questions and then I were to hit like back to go back after I submitted it, I could read it again the second time and enter the comprehensive questions, and it wouldn't know accurately what my reading level was. So there's a feature in there that once you've read the article, you've answered the questions, you can go back and read it again until you submit it. In a couple of different cases, we've had, I think in two specifically that I can remember, we've had a parent or even a faculty member reach out and say, I would like access to the article itself, even though we've hit next. The only way that we can go about doing that is contacting the customer service of the program. And in both cases, my recollection, and I can look in if the board would, if you'd like that, in both instances, the company was able to provide us a single-use, like PDF version of the article that, the individual, the teacher or the parent wanted to see. It took about a day or two for the company to furnish that, and it comes with like a whole list of things in the email. You can't share it, you can't publish it, you can't, etc. So I personally like the Reading Plus program. My own child uses a similar but different program. And, again, I guess the upside is the wealth of texts, the variety, the leveling, the tracking, the progress monitoring that happens through a program like this. The downside is eventually students test out, I think around grade 13 and a half. So like once you get to a college reading level, they don't have text leveled for you any longer. I'll embarrass my son Owen, who's 12 at home. He tested out at one point, so he had to bring his own book. So that's like a downside to the program. And then certainly, we're willing to work with any family or any faculty member who would like to see a text once somebody has hit submit. They just need to be patient with us as we work with the company's customer service side. I'm not sure if that covers all of the concern as you stated it. If there were others, I'm happy to.
No, I think that does. I just want to make sure I'm clear. Essentially what you're saying, there's two reasons why someone can't go back and look at sort of the history of, and read it. One is pedagogical, and the other one is legal, the copyright issue. Right?
That's correct.
I should add here, just because it's general discussion, that Denise Beery, although she can't be here tonight, on her behalf, but on mine too, I just want to thank you, Carl Tomic, for stepping up and being on the board, and because, what we found out, and I know that Jay McCullough has put that out there too, that that the law is that in your case, this is your last board meeting. And I think it was maybe mentioned before, but I just want to thank you again for your service, past and present. And so happy that you'll still continue in committee work and serving the district. So again, Carl, thank you so much.
Happy to do it.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on the consent agenda?
I just want to, this one thing, I was interested in the MOU with Dutchess Community College concerning the concurrent enrollment.
Yeah.
And I noticed in there they give a rate for the class, and I just want to confirm that we as a district are actually covering that cost for all students.
Yeah,
Yes?
so here's where this stands. The MOU is there. There's a possibility that Dutchess Boice will run this as a service. And this is just a Plan B so that we know that our students are covered. So there's, again, a possibility of additional funds in the budget because of course with BOCES we get the aid, so it'll be less expensive for taxpayers for sure. So if that doesn't happen, this MOU is in place, and what it says is that the district will be billed the 1/3 for a general student, and then if the family is willing to share their free and reduced lunch eligibility, will be charged half of that rate for all of those students, and we just submit that number of students to BOCES, and then we'll be billed differently. So we worked out a process for that, but of course, if it's through BOCES, we'll just get billed by BOCES. So that would be easier, preferable, less expensive, but either way, this covers us for that. Yeah, well, thank you for your support, and not just of DCC, which in past history has been free for students, but wasn't going to be. But then, especially Mike Zagorski, I want to thank you for your advocacy for Marist and Project Lead the Way courses as well. I don't know that anyone else is doing that, and it just means a lot, the support for our families.
Good, thank you. Anything else on the consent agenda? Okay, so 10.1, consent agenda. Can I get a motion for approval?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to, so you're halfway there, Dr. Roman. That you were in there, so you're approved from that piece. One more to go. So now, moving on to, just before we get into a new business, I just want to point out that the bid rejection that Linda mentioned is 11.7. There's a bunch of bid stuff going on, but it's the 11.7 is the bid rejection. So 11.1, the superintendent of schools contract from 2023 to 2026. Can I get a motion?
So moved, Margaret.
Second, Tibbetts.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now it's official. Eleven point two, Board of Education appeal ruling. Can I get a motion?
Second, Tibbetts.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 11.3, first consideration of policies. Can I get a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 11.4, bid award, capital project phase 1, contract 5, synthetic grass surfacing. Can I get a motion?
So moved, Margaret.
Second, Tibbetts.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 11.5, bid award, capital project phase 1, contract 6, FDR track and tennis courts resurfacing. Can I get a motion?
So moved, Jesse.
Second, Tibbetts.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 11.6, capital project change orders for the FDR science labs and HVAC. Can I get a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 11.7, bid rejection, FDR high school roof renovations, phase 1, Hyde Park Central School District 2022 capital project. Can I get a motion? Any discussion?
Mike, I want to make clear that a vote of aye is a rejection.
Yes. Right, correct. We're voting yes for the, or no, for the bid rejection. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, at this time, can I get a motion to enter our second public participation?
So moved, Tibbetts.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. As a general rule, public participation will be limited to 3 minutes total per speaker. The second segment will be limited to 12 minutes. The segment of time may be modified by the board as deemed appropriate. The board requests that remarks be courteous and respectful of all. Would anyone like to address the board? Okay, seeing that nobody will, we'll close public participation. And that moves us on to any other matters deemed necessary by the board. You want a second exec? What's that? No. No need for a second executive session, so can I get a 15.1, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting? So moved. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Carl, go back, hit the microphone. Second, please.
Second.
Thank you. That's right.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.